When someone you love dies, you don't just leave them where they fell. You bury them. You mark the spot. Maybe you say a few words. It feels like the most human thing in the world. But here's the strange part. It wasn't always ours. For most of history, scientists believed burying the dead was something only modern humans did, a sign of a special mind. Then they started digging, and what they found broke the whole story apart. Because the first grave wasn't dug by someone like you, it might have been dug by something that wasn't even fully human. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what a burial really is. Any animal can die, but to bury a body, to carry it, dig a hole, place it with care, that takes something else. It means you understand death, you feel loss, maybe you even imagine something after. For over a century, that was the line that separated us from every other creature. Burial meant a human soul. So the question became simple but haunting. Who was the first to cross that line? The answer takes us back. Not thousands of years, but hundreds of thousands. And every clue we find pushes the date back even further. Let's start with the Neanderthals. In the 1950s, archaeologist Ralph Solecki was excavating Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. There he found the remains of a Neanderthal who had died around 70,000 years ago. And in the soil around the body, his team found clumps of ancient pollen from flowers. Solecki called it the flower burial and suggested Neanderthals had laid their dead to rest with blooms like a funeral. It was the first crack in the idea that only we grieved. Now scientists still argue about that pollen. Some think burrowing animals brought it in. But recent digs at the same cave have uncovered more bodies deliberately placed, deepening the case that Neanderthals really did bury their own. But it goes back further. In a cave in northern Spain called Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones, researchers found the remains of at least 28 individuals, an older human species, dating back around 430,000 years. Their bones were found at the bottom of a deep vertical shaft. There's no sign they fell in by accident or were dragged by predators. It looks like bodies were deliberately dropped into that pit, and with them, a single beautiful hand axe made of rare red stone, nicknamed Excalibur. One tool, no others, possibly the first object ever left with the dead. An offering, 400,000 years ago. And then comes the discovery that broke everything. Deep inside the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa, in passages so narrow explorers could barely fit, a team led by Lee Berger found the bones of a species called Homo naledi. It had a brain a third the size of ours. By every old assumption, it should not have been capable of anything symbolic. Yet in 2023, Berger's team claimed the bodies had been deliberately buried in dug holes more than 250,000 years ago, over 100,000 years before the first modern humans. If true, it means a small-brained, ancient cousin was burying its dead before we even existed. Now, and this is important, many scientists strongly disagree. They say the evidence isn't solid, that the bodies could have ended up there another way. The debate is still raging, but even the possibility rewrites what we thought we knew. Once modern humans arrive, the evidence becomes undeniable. At Kafse Cave in Israel, around 100,000 years ago, early Homo sapiens were buried with red ochre pigment and even deer antlers placed in their arms. Grave goods, gifts for the dead. And by 34,000 years ago, at a site called Songjir in Russia, burials became breathtaking. 2 children were laid to rest, covered in over 13,000 ivory beads. Beads that would have taken thousands of hours to carve. Think about that. An Ice Age community spent months of labor to honor 2 dead children. That isn't survival, that's love, that's belief. That's a species that had decided death meant something. So why does this matter to you? Because burial is the moment our ancestors looked at death and refused to accept it as just an ending. It's the first evidence of grief, of memory, of the idea that a person is more than a body. Every graveyard, every headstone, every funeral you've ever attended traces back to that first act. Someone who couldn't just walk away. And the newest discoveries hint at something even more humbling. Maybe that instinct wasn't unique to us at all. Maybe the need to honor the dead is older and deeper than humanity itself, something we inherited, not invented. We may never know the name of the first being who buried another. We may never even know what species they were, but we know this: somewhere hundreds of thousands of years ago, someone stood over a body they couldn't bear to leave behind. They dug, they placed, maybe they wept. And in that single act, they did something no creature had ever recorded before. They said, "You mattered, and I won't forget you." Every grave since is an echo of that first goodbye. If this changed how you see something as simple as a grave, subscribe. Every week we bring the forgotten world of ancient humans back to life. And tell me in the comments, do you think Neanderthals, or even Homo naledi, truly buried their dead? I read every reply.